Hey guys, welcome back to Two Blondes in a Brokerage. We are going to talk about rent. Rent is obviously increasing.
I can't get my. It's too big.
Well, you know.
Okay, I'm in.
Problems.
Yeah.
Okay, she's in.
Rent.
Yeah, rent. Fill us in on rent. Rent is crazy right now.
Yes. So rent, like home prices, has skyrocketed in the last year, and we've seen like upwards of 17% year-over-year changes in rent, and the consumer's obviously feeling that. And it's funny to me because I have friends that are financially in amazing places and should definitely experience homeownership. But she's like, oh well, I've heard mixed things about whether it's a good time to buy or not. And I'm like sitting there looking at her and I'm like, you spend $3,500 a month on a one-bedroom apartment. That is 100% interest, right? Because none of that goes towards anywhere else except away. Paying someone else's mortgage.
Yep.
So while interest rates may not be the most favorable they've ever been, by the way, they dropped again to like 4.5 now. So we're locking at like 4.5, which is a great rate. And that's what I locked my first house at too. So that's a good rate. And regardless of the rates, honestly, would you rather pay 100% interest to live in an apartment or pay a 4.5% interest rate to experience homeownership? And your interest is tax deductible. Nettie, you even said you were going to turn off your phone, bro.
Well, I turned off the sound.
You're so important. Like, you're so needed. So to me, that's like a no-brainer. I don't really see that argument because it's like if you're currently renting, it's always the time to buy because there's way more benefits to owning versus renting.
Mm-hmm.
I can see it a little bit more if you're like living with your parents and not paying rent currently or whatever. Where you have a little bit more leeway where it's like, is now the time to buy or not? I would argue now is still the time to buy because rates are not high. They're not in the sixes where we've seen them get up to.
Right.
They're back down to 4.5, and that's still a great rate, historically a great rate. And also now inventory has gone up to where we're seeing all the normal parts of the market come back into play, you know, with negotiation and all that kind of stuff. So it's a great time to buy. The experience is way better if you're buying now than if you were buying 16, 18 months ago. Or even honestly, 6 months ago.
6 months
So
ago.
So if you're renting, the time to buy is now. And with rent prices going up, you know, the other things to consider too is like your landlord can increase your rent, will increase your rent, just so you know. Your landlord's gonna increase your rent. And your landlord can also sell that home and give you 30 days notice, and now you're like, okay, great, I don't have a place to live, rents are insanely high. So there's just not a lot of stability, I feel like, with renting, whereas with homeownership, you know what that payment is gonna be. And like we've talked about, it's like a little bit of a savings account. So to me, like I said, no brainer, and it brings so much more stability to your life. And there's just something to be said for like owning your own home that you don't really know how to describe until you do it. And I just, you know, don't pay 100% interest. Own your home. It's tax deductible. You know, your interest is tax deductible. And then experience all the joys of homeownership versus paying someone else's mortgage and then having no stability in your life.
Well, and the biggest takeaway I think too is, I mean, now that rates are starting to come back down, it is more than possible to have your rent be more than what your mortgage will be. So your mortgage can now actually be more affordable than what your rent is, and I'm actually starting to see that flip for quite a few people.
Yep,
so
for sure.
That's something to kind of look forward to and to go, you know what, okay, you know, my lease is up in March. Cool, let's make March your game plan.
100%.
Do you know how much we can get done from now until March and you'll still be set? Because in March, if your lease is up, you want to start looking in January, February, because it can take 30 to 45 days to close.
Yeah.
So it is becoming back to where your actual home that you pay for is going to be cheaper than what you're paying for rent.
Yeah.
Mark my words, it's going to happen.
Yeah, that's great. So if you guys have any questions about rent or how to get into homeownership and stop renting, please let us know. We would be happy to help you.
See you next time.